Today we're going to be talking about the devastating case of Ruqia Haidari, a woman who was forced into a marriage by her own mother with a man she barely knew. And only a few weeks later, he took her life.
I want to get married.
This case grabbed the nation's attention because it depicts what many women go through in different parts of the world. Bringing awareness about this subject is a reminder that this act of forcing someone against their will to enter a marriage needs to stop. In this case, 21-year-old Ruqia Haidari did not have a fair chance at life and was betrayed by the same people that were supposed to protect her. Before I get into the details of this tragic story, please stop and take a second to like this video. It helps my channel more than you'll ever know, and also subscribe to my channel if you want to be notified for all future videos. Okay, let's talk about it. In 1999, Sakina Muhammad Jan and her husband welcomed their fifth and last child into this world and named her Ruqia Haidari. Sakina and her husband were very excited about this new addition in their family. Even though they had 4 other children together and a lot on their plate, this was still a blessing. Unfortunately, not long after Ruqia's birth, only a month later, her father's life was tragically taken by the Taliban in Afghanistan. And if you're wondering, well, what is the Taliban? Well, they're a militant group that took control of Afghanistan in 1996, establishing an extremist regime. They're known for their strict enforcement of Sharia law, particularly restricting women's rights. These restrictions include banning girls from attending school beyond the 6th grade, prohibiting women from working, requiring women to have a male escort in public, and harshly punishing anyone who protests. And if you go against this government, you can be arrested, threatened, tortured, and even murdered. So with all of this being said, after Sakina's husband was murdered, she realized that it wasn't safe for her and her kids to stay in Afghanistan. She decided to flee with her children, who were all under 5 years old, and they went to live in Pakistan for several years. Now, even though Pakistan was a little more safe than Afghanistan, it still didn't secure a better life. And so in 2013, the family decided to move again and start over. In hopes for a better life and more opportunities, Sakina took her kids and moved all the way to Australia. They settled in Shepparton, which is a regional town in northern Victoria, and this became their new home for Sakina and her children. The family came from a place where they constantly lived in fear and where women's rights didn't exist, to a place where everything was more accepting and there were less rules. This was such a relief for all the kids, especially Rukia, who was the youngest, and she was a girl, so she saw a lot of horrible things growing up. When the family moved to Australia, Rukia was 14 years old and she was so excited for the future. At this point, she was in her early teens and she felt like there was no better time to have a fresh start. Rukia's close friends and family described her as a kind, caring, and ambitious young woman. It was said that she was very dedicated to her studies and she was someone who always wanted to help others and had a very positive outlook on life. Rukia began attending high school in Shepparton and made a lot of good friends, and she had dreams of pursuing her education in healthcare and one day becoming a nurse. But unfortunately, her dreams and goals of doing all these amazing things were crushed very early on. In 2018, Rukia graduated from high school and was in the process of furthering her studies, but her mother had other plans. Sakina, Rukia's mother, began fixating on the idea that maybe it was time Rukia got married. Around this time, Rukia did not have a boyfriend or anyone in mind that she wanted to spend the rest of her life with, but her mother was already scouting for a man that she thought was appropriate for her daughter. But here's the thing, this wasn't the first time Rukia went through this. It was said that at the age of 15, she already had an arranged marriage that was set up by her mother, but this marriage only lasted about 2 years. Rukia and this man eventually got a divorce, and it was said that her mother felt like Rukia brought a lot of shame to the family and that she had lost her value. Now, despite her mother's beliefs, Rukia told her that she was not interested in marrying anyone else until she was at least 27 and had completed her studies and had a stable job. Ruqia wanted to do things at her own pace and be in control of her life, which as she should, because this is her life. But her mother did not care what Ruqia wanted. In fact, she already had someone in mind. In June 2019, Sakina introduced Ruqia to 25-year-old Mohammad Ali Halimi. Now, Mohammed was from Afghanistan just like Ruqia, and surprisingly, Mohammed's father was also murdered by the Taliban when he was just a kid. So this is something that Ruqia and Mohammed had in common. He moved from Afghanistan to Australia at the age of 18 as a refugee. She had other priorities and goals that she wanted to get done first. It wasn't specific what kind of driver he was, but I'm assuming he was kind of like a taxi driver or like an Uber driver. So similarly to Ruqia and her family, Mohammed came from the same country. They had similar experiences and upbringing. It would seem like a perfect match, right? Well, after meeting for the first time, Ruqia was not interested at all. Remember, she wasn't interested in getting married at all. She had other priorities and goals that she wanted to get done first, and then she wanted to think about possibly getting married. So again, she wanted nothing to do with this man that she barely knew, but her mother insisted. It seems that even though Sakina fled from Afghanistan to provide a more safe place for her children, she continued to hold the same extreme beliefs from back home. For weeks, she continued to pressure Ruqia to move forward with the marriage and to make the relationship with Mohammed official. In a way, it was like a ticking time bomb for Ruqia, and she felt trapped. It was said that throughout these few months, Ruqia was anxious all the time and she was afraid. She was going around telling her close friends, teachers, counselors, even her driving instructor, and a few police officers that she did not want to move forward with this marriage. Now, to an extent, the police tried to help Ruqia, but this was tricky because the last thing that Ruqia wanted was for her mother to get in trouble with the law. So she refused to move forward with pressing any charges or getting the police seriously involved. Aside from this, she constantly vented to several people about this personal matter and said that she just wished her mother would stop pressuring her. It was said that Ruqia was afraid of her mother getting mad, and she somehow didn't want to ruin her mother's reputation in their community if she refused to marry the man her mother picked for her. Sakina also gave Ruqia an ultimatum and said that she either gets married to Mohammed or she's getting kicked out of the house. There's this very twisted belief in this community that if you have a husband, then you're respected, you're valued, and the whole world is yours. And that to be a good woman, you have to be married and you have to be a nice and obedient wife. Again, these were extreme beliefs that Sakina and other members in her community had. Now, for the last time, Ruqia begged her mother that she did not want to go through with this wedding, but her mother told her that it wasn't her choice, and 2 days later, on November 2019, Ruqia and Mohammed got married, only 2 months after they met. And these videos from the ceremony are so difficult to look at because Ruqia does not look happy at all. It actually makes me really sad to see how this young woman was manipulated and controlled, and she felt like there was no way out of this. But now what's even more disturbing to me about this entire thing is that Sakina also received 15,000 Australian dollars from Mohammed in exchange for marrying Ruqia. Like what? In what world is this okay? After Ruqia and Mohammed tied the knot, she left her life in Shepparton and moved all the way across the country, thousands and thousands of kilometers away to Perth to start her new life as husband and wife. During this long drive to Mohammed's house, Ruqia sent this Snapchat to all her friends saying goodbye and that she was going to miss them. And this in a way foreshadowed that Ruqia was never going to see these people ever again. Throughout the next few weeks, Ruqia's life was a living nightmare. Her friends and family did not hear from her as much anymore. They went from speaking almost every day to only a couple times a week. But Ruqia's brother was the one who actually realized that something was wrong when one day Ruqia and him were texting back and forth, and out of nowhere she sent him a text saying, "Try not to contact me again." Meanwhile at home, Mohammed was losing his patience with Ruqia. He was upset upset because she continuously refused to be intimate with him. But not only that, he demanded that Rukia stay home and just focus on cooking and cleaning, and he just wanted Rukia to serve him at all times. And things only got worse as time went on. 6 weeks after they got married, on January 2020, Mohammad recorded this weird video where he walked around his house and showed how dirty and messy everything was. In the video, he complained that Rukia was not doing her job as a wife, and he sent this video out to all her family to try to embarrass her. But what happens next is truly disturbing. Rukia's brother was one of the people that received this weird video, and so when he saw it, he decided to call Rukia to just check up on her and make sure everything was fine, but she didn't answer. He then called Mohammad in hopes that he would confirm that everything was fine. But Mohammad completely lost it, and he swore and threatened Rukia's brother and told him to mind his own business and to stop calling. During this phone call, you can hear Rukia in the background arguing with Mohammad, and he turns his anger towards her, and then the phone hangs up. Rukia's brother said that in that moment he had a really bad feeling and didn't know what to do, but felt like his sister was in a lot of danger. Then only 10 minutes later, Mohammad calls Rukia's brother back and tells him, "Come get your sister's dead body. I'm going to the police station." And then he hangs up. Can you imagine what her brother probably felt in that moment? They're thousands and thousands of kilometers away. They can't do anything to get to Rukia in that moment and help her. Mohammad then drove to the police station and turned himself in, and when he was asked why he did it, he said, "I reached my breaking point and snapped after a long period of rejection, emotional heartache, and confusion." He told police that he asked Rukia why she even married him, and she said because her mother forced her. When police arrived to the home, they found 21-year-old Rukia lifeless on the kitchen floor with the knife that Mohammad used to slit her throat. Now, while Mohammad was charged with murder, this case takes an interesting turn that no one was expecting. Rukia's mother, Sakina, was also arrested, and a lot of the focus in this case was directed towards her. And the reason for this is because since 2013, forced marriage in Australia became criminalized. It carries a maximum sentence of 7 years in prison and up to 25 years if a child is taken overseas for the purpose of forced marriage. And a matter of fact, Sakina was actually the first person in Australia to be convicted of this crime. Throughout the trial, her lawyers claimed that Sakina only wanted the best for her daughter and that it was impossible for her to know that Mohammad was going to take her life. Her defense also asked that instead of prison time, that Sakina receive community work because of her lack of education and cultural ties, and that she didn't know any better. They also argued that Sakina was a victim of forced marriage very early on in her life as well. It was said that at only 12 years old, Sakina was forced to marry a man back home, and she had her first daughter very soon after. I can't even express how disgusting and disturbing that is, and I can't imagine what these young little girls go through at a very young age. Sakina also said that had she known Mohammad was like this, she would have never let her daughter marry him, which you only knew this guy for a couple months. Obviously you didn't know him, no one did. She continued to claim that she did nothing wrong and she took zero accountability for her actions. She was eventually sentenced to 3 years in prison and was released with restrictions after 12 months. Personally, I don't think this was enough time, especially because this was her daughter. She raised this girl and she was supposed to protect her. I wonder how warped this woman's mind is that she can't see the issues with this entire thing. After Sakina's release, it was said that she faces deportation back to Afghanistan, so there's that. Now, Mohammad, on the other hand, he's serving life in prison with a minimum of 19 years, and he's currently in a prison in Western Australia. This is such a sad and tragic case, and when I was first reading about it, I got goosebumps, and I still do till this day. No one should have to go through this, and when I posted a video on this a while back on my TikTok, there were so many responses of women who either knew someone that went through something similar like this, or they personally went through something similar like this, and I just find that crazy. I really hope this is a learning lesson for others. Parents should not be forcing their children or just anyone to marry another person. It should be up to each person to do what they want to do. It's not safe, it's not morally okay, and a lot of times it can lead to abusive situations. Anyways, that is it for today's video. Please make sure to give it a like. It literally takes 1 second of your day. These are all my other social medias if you want to follow me. Also, subscribe if you want to be notified for any future videos. I plan to upload 1 video a week, so let's start there. But thank you guys again so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.